So hello everyone. Let me know how the audio works. This is with my new configuration of microphone. So let me know how that's going. I see Frank the Tank and Newt Scamander are already here. Excellent in the chat. And yeah, this is an interesting kind of isopod known as Gophorus agassizi, which is you kind of an unusual species. And I'm here with my Porcellio expansus, as you can see on my shirt. So excited to talk about some herping. We've got a lot of questions in the chat. Um, a lot of questions in the chat from patrons, which is great. I'm very excited about that. And I'm excited to hear that the microphone is working. And I see that Sandy and Jamie and Sean Meister are also here, which is excellent. Oh, J-Man also in the house. Excellent. So, I wanted to start out today. Oh, there's Eileen O'Donnell too. And I'm getting more comments in the chat or on the Patreon post, which is awesome. I'm going to make sure I'm going to try not to miss any. Oh, John Racine is here as well. And oh, Jamie, congratulations on the upcoming Isopods. Okay, Sean, I'm going to try to be a little louder and see if that helps. Let me know. I'm going to just try to be maybe like this. How's this? Yeah, when I get closer, I have to be careful with this mic. I'm not supposed to get too close to it. So I'm just going to try to project and see if that helps. So let me know. And if it's too quiet, I'll adjust. Or if it's too loud, I'll adjust. So I appreciate that feedback. And Sean, that email that I tried to send you for some reason, it bounced back. Did you try to send another one? I'm curious about that. So I don't know about that, Frank. But if this is working, then we'll go with that. All right. And there's Matt M. Hello. Okay. All right. So let me know when you try again. For some reason, it's just not working. So that's great. That's great. I'll look for it. And we'll see what happens. I'm having a weird thing happening where a certain subset of my emails through the contact page are bouncing back. And when I respond to them, they bounce back to me. I don't know why. It doesn't happen with all of them, but a certain number of them do occur that way, and I'm puzzled by it. I'm not sure what's going on. My favorite species of isopod? Well, I agree, Jamie, that the rubber duckies are really cute. It is so hard to pick a favorite species, but I can tell you some of my favorites. I like Armadillidium gestroi among the Armadillidium, but of course I have a billion favorites. I like Porcellio expansus among the Porcellio. I like so many. It's hard to pick. Those are just a couple that are some of my favorites. So, Bolivary are cool too. I don't have that species yet, but it is really cool. I really love Porcellio hazi, and I don't have it, but it's awesome. That might be one of my favorites if I had it, but I don't. So there you go. All right. So today's live stream, we're going to talk about a lot of things. I'm going to answer questions and so on that you bring up during the stream. But I wanted to give some airtime to herping and my herping plans and Patreon questions relating to that. So Sandy Sizemore wanted to ask exactly what herping is. And herping means a lot of things to a lot of people, but basically it means going out into the field. It's often the long form of it is field herping, going out into the field to encounter herps, so reptiles and amphibians, and that is often expanded to include invertebrates and whatever as well, other creatures that you find while you're there. But I think most often it includes reptiles and amphibians, and fairly often invertebrates. Oh, that's the live stream notification that I need to be ready for it, and I already am. So, herping can mean collecting. To some people it does. I rarely collect reptiles and amphibians while I'm herping. To keep, I haven't done it in so many years, I don't know when the last time I did that was. To actually just pick up for a moment and look at, I'll occasionally do that, but most of the time for me, herping is just seeing the creature and taking some digital footage of it, photos, videos, and that kind of stuff. That's generally my focus as far as reptiles and amphibians are concerned. This past year, I think the only reptile I really picked up was a western yellow-bellied racer. that I can think of. Just one, and then I released it a couple minutes after I caught it. So typically for me, that's what it means. Looking, uh, just looking at them, taking video, taking photos of them. But it can mean collecting, can mean capturing and releasing, you know, and so on. So state and national parks, you were asking about where can you go herping. Well, if you're going herping like I usually go herping, when all you're doing is looking and taking photos and video, of course, you can do that in state and national parks. As far as collecting, you just have to check the laws for the particular area. There's a place I like to go down in southern Utah, and I may go down there soon, where it's not a state or national park, but nothing is allowed to be collected. So you just have to check. Generally, national parks, of course, you can't collect anything. State parks, it depends, but you actually need to talk to the ranger about it in the area. Like once I went to a state park and I was planning on finding some blue death fanning beetles because I knew they existed there. And I talked to the park ranger and asked about collecting one, and he said I could collect one, just one, and that was okay. So if you talk to a ranger in that kind of area, sometimes you can get permission to do certain things. It's probably going to be a lot harder with vertebrates, to be honest, than it was with invertebrates. But, you know, most cases, you just have to check the area, kind of find out what the specific rules are for that area, contact the ranger if there is one, that kind of thing, and just, you know, national parks, of course, are not going to be, you're not being able to collect anything. What equipment is needed depends on what kind of herping you're doing, but some kind of camera is good. If you're going to be collecting anything, like I will collect invertebrates more often than I'll collect reptiles, and so I'll often bring a long pair of like reptile feeding tongs, like a 12-inch metal feeding tongs, a spoon for excavating small areas, heavy leather gloves for lifting rocks, flipping rocks. I will bring a UV flashlight and other flashlights, usually headlamps, and UV flashlight for black lighting for scorpions, which is something I'm looking forward to looking for this time. I'm going, let's see what else. Flashlights, good boots or shoes for, you know, tromping around in areas like that. When I bring a UV flashlight, just so nobody accidentally gets flashed in the eyes, because the UV flashlights are fairly strong, UV goggles, and lots of deli cups if I'm going to be collecting, like invertebrates is usually what I'm collecting. Deli cups, paper towels, so you can moisten the paper towels if you need to use that as a temporary substrate, a spray bottle. If I'm going to bring something, if I'm going to be gone long enough, I want to bring something for the bugs to eat, so I'll bring bug jelly, things like that, for the non-carnivorous bugs. That's kind of some of the basics. There's probably more than that, but those are a few things. So night herping, I guess I already kind of covered that. The headlamps are useful, the UV flashlight, and depending on what you're looking for. UV flashlight especially for scorpions, of course, but other flashlights, like you could use a red flashlight if you want to see things but not disturb them. And is hunting for bugs called bugging? I have heard it called that, and I have called it that, and I often we say I'm either going herping or I'm going to flip rocks, and that, you know, flipping rocks doesn't preclude other activities really when we say it, and it doesn't really narrow it down to a taxon, so it could be anything. So hopefully that helps, Sandy, and let me know if you have follow-up questions. And John Racine wanted to know about great herping spots where you can go herping on your own, and about places where it might be better to have an expert along. I can just see me picking up a snake and saying, what a pretty garter, and look, it's got a little rattle on its tail. Yeah, I think one thing that I do have rattlesnakes in my area and where I go herping, but just, you know, go up in the canyon here and find rattlesnakes 5 minutes from my house, as well as all these other snakes as well. You can get racers, there's garters, there's gopher snakes and lots of stuff up there. So I follow the rule, if I'm not entirely sure what it is, I don't pick it up until I am. And that helps a lot. Places where you can go on your own, I think a couple of good places, if you're living in a place where during the season too, where the road gets kind of warm from the sun, so, you know, summer, even into early fall, even in spring, it's often good to go alongside a road, like a not super busy road, out in a place like that, in the country or in the desert or wherever you happen to be. You go to a place like that at night and kind of drive a little slowly if it's a place you can do that safely. And you can often find things like snakes and lizards that will come to absorb some of that heat at night. And so they call that road cruising. That's a good one. Bodies of water, especially slow or still bodies of water, are great places to go herping. You can often see a lot of creatures there. And that brings me to a couple of rules for flipping rocks. Make sure that when you're flipping rock, you do it so that you flip the rock towards yourself, so that whatever is under the rock, especially if it's an area where there are venomous or otherwise dangerous things, the rock is between you and whatever it is, so you have a little bit of a shield. Say if you flip it over and you just upset a rattlesnake, there's a rock between you and the rattlesnake. Kind of nice. If you flip it the other way, your face could be right, there. Another one is make sure to put the rock back carefully, just where it was, so you don't damage any habitat. So I think those are a couple of important things there. Herping outside of the U.S. Well, I've had limited experience herping in Italy. I ran into some lacertid lizards, and they're amazingly calm. I actually fed some wild lacertid lizards from my hands, which is, not something you do with a lot of wild lizards, but it worked there. They're kind of accustomed to human presence there because they live on the walls and stuff, the houses. I encountered red-eared sliders. They still sell the babies there. They breed them over here, I guess, and ship them over there. They still sell the little quarter-sized turtles. So there were ponds and streams and things that were just full of the red-eared sliders. Quite a few toads that I would see there. A few frogs too. That's mostly what I saw there. Now, outside the continental United States, I herped quite a bit in Hawaii when I lived there. Lived in Hawaii for 3 years and herped. They have a lot of interesting creatures there. The green sea turtles, the biggest herp I ever saw there. Gigantic. We knew a beach where we could go and see them basking on the beach almost every time we went. There were usually 1, 2, 3 turtles basking there, and we would also see them, swimming and things like that. So that was one herp we saw there. They do have sea snakes there. I never saw a sea snake. There were anoles. They have the Bahama anole, the brown anole. They're running rampant. They're everywhere. The green anole, the Carolina anole, we saw those all the time as well. They're not quite as common as the brown, but they have a lot of them. They had the cane toad, or giant marine toad, all over the place. They have a species of snake, the Brahminy blind snake, or the flower pot snake. Encountered a couple of those. Only snakes that are there in Hawaii. Let's see what else. They do have a couple of turtles that are feral there, but other than the green sea turtles, I didn't see any other turtles. Trying to think what are the reptiles. They had a few skinks. I would encounter the skinks occasionally. Other geckos, they had the day geckos, a couple of different kinds of day geckos. They had tokay geckos, of course, morning geckos. That's kind of where I fell in love with morning geckos and started keeping them. They also had, let's see, Indo-Pacific geckos and other types of geckos. Lots and lots of geckos there. So did a lot of herping there. But as far as making arrangements, I didn't really do anything formal there because I was just out looking and I couldn't really keep anything. So, but do watch out for areas you have to avoid. That's one thing. There were places in Hawaii you had to avoid. Make sure you stay off of private property and stuff like that. That's just, I guess, common sense. So that's probably not very useful for me to mention it. Okay. Julie Poihonen was talking about how she found an eastern hognose snake, and she was trying to figure out what it was because it flattened its body out and opened its mouth, and she was looking for things like cobra-like snake online and trying to figure out what it is. And that was a while ago, and now she actually has 2 western hognose snakes. That was an eastern that she found. So that's kind of fun. And let's see. Some of these comments are not to me, but some tips that Julie had for finding snakes. Go hiking on park trails and watch where the sun has been shining on the path and warming it up. In a heavily wooded area, the snakes just gravitate to those places to warm up. You can also look under logs of downed trees. Cool. Very good points. Some good tips. Now I'm going to see, I'm hoping I find all the comments. Trying to make sure that I do. Let's see. I got a couple of comments here. Oh, Sherry. This time of year, what types of reptiles are you expecting to find? Okay, Sherry, that's a great question. Finding reptiles this time of year. I know I will almost certainly see desert spiny lizards and side blotched lizards because I see a billion of them when I'm down there. Anytime from April through June. I usually go somewhere April, May, June in that period, and they're always around. As well as whiptails. I'm pretty certain to see those. I'm likely to see, these aren't reptiles, but I'm likely to see some toads and or tadpoles. That's common in the Virgin River. I'm going to be in that area, so I'll see some of those. Reptile wise, I'm hoping to see some desert tortoises. They are starting to, in the mornings they'll be basking at this time of year when it's still kind of cooler. They'll show up in the morning and kind of bask for a little while and start eating. So I've seen the desert tortoises down there. I'm hoping to see some this time. May, I'm probably going to be going in early May, and so I'm hoping to see some banded geckos. That's when they kind of show up in that area. The area I'm going is one of the northernmost portions of the Mojave Desert, and they have banded geckos there. So I'm hoping to find some. I've never seen a banded gecko in the wild yet, so I'm hoping to see one. Gila monsters, also May is a good time to see those. It's kind of rare to see them, but I'm hoping could see that. Let's see, what other herps am I hoping to see? I'm looking for some invertebrates too. I'm likely to see some Scolopendra polymorpha centipedes, hoping to blacklight some scorpions. Might see some snakes of some kind. We're going to try to do a little road cruising, see if we can find some snakes. There are 3 or 4 species or maybe more of rattlesnakes in that area, and they have gopher snakes, and there are king snakes, and there are other kinds of snakes down there, quite a few, so we'll see what we see. As far as a lot of those lizards, I don't see the desert spiny lizards here. I do see smaller species of spiny lizards, and we get sagebrush lizards here. Whiptails, I can see those right up in the hills behind my house, and various kinds of spiny lizards, sagebrush lizards. We've got gopher snakes, rattlesnakes, racers, garters. I actually saw my first reptile of the year, a garter snake, a couple of weeks ago. A very young garter snake. It looked like it had brumated when it was very young, because it was only about 9 inches long and very thin still. So that was kind of cool. I always love that. Okay, I'm going to try to catch up on the chat a little bit. So, leopard geckos, yes, those are cool. And rattlesnakes in New Jersey, Frank. Oh, you've never seen one? Oh, yeah. We see a lot of rattlesnakes here. Last year I didn't see a single one. I think it was because it was too dry. So Ben's Bug says, hello, sir. Love your stuff. Very helpful. I have a quick question. Not reptile related, but milkback isopod related. That's fine. I'm getting 20 of them in the mail and wanted some advice on keeping them, sir. Okay. They are very, pretty undemanding, very much like dairy cows. So they want a decent amount of space because they will breed fast, much like dairy cows. They are big eaters. So once you get them started and they're starting to breed and so on, they'll eat a lot. They like a lot of protein. They like a lot of everything, all their food. So keep them with plenty of leaf litter. Give them things like squash, zucchini, sweet potato, green beans, that kind of stuff. But also give them some protein, some fish food pellets and stuff like that. They like a lot of calcium, which they'll be getting from their food, but they'll eat extra calcium like cuttlebone, crushed eggshell, stuff like that. They're not huge on their need for extra ventilation. They of course need some. All isopods need some ventilation, but they don't need a ton, and they're not too picky about moisture gradient either. Doesn't hurt to offer a little ventilation, extra ventilation, a little moisture gradient though, but you don't want them to get dried out, of course. They are very, very cool. I love the milkbacks. They're pretty active. Their feeding response is insane, just like dairy cows. So if you want to feed them during the day, you can put food on a piece of cork bark or a magnolia leaf or something. They'll smell it and they'll come running and just pile all over it, which is cool. So they're a fun one to have. Oh, and Wally's here. Yes, the banded gecko. I really hope to see at least one banded gecko. Apparently down there you can look in the water maintenance valve things. They have like the sunken thing. You open the door and there's a little place where you can monitor sprinklers and stuff like that. Apparently they frequent those down there. But May is the time of year when you typically see them, so we'll see what we get this year. You guys everybody's making comments about my arms. That's funny. Okay, and let's see. Oh, you have the horny toads. Yeah, when I was a kid, I used to see those a lot. fair amount here in my state, and I haven't seen one in years. And my nephew found one a couple years ago, but I haven't seen very many. I need to go look in one of the places where I know they hang out. Okay, so yes, Eileen, there are a few different things to watch out for. There, like I said, the 3 or 4 species of rattlesnakes in the area where I'm going to be. Right where I am right now, there's only one species of rattlesnake, the Great Basin rattlesnake, in my area, but where I'm going to be, there will be 3 or 4 different species. Some of them are kind of rare, but I'll have to keep my eye open for that. Of course, we have black widows in this area and down there as well, where I'm going. So I have to watch for that. And then we have a few scorpion species that are venomous. Well, you know, they're all venomous, but some are more significant than others. They have the Arizona bark scorpions that are, you know, fairly venomous down there. So I have to keep my eyes open for that as well. And the last 3 years, I've found not very many. I've just found like one scorpion. The 3 years I went, I found a scorpion twice, and they were tiny. They were both very tiny scorpions in the same area, and that's all. I haven't seen any other scorpions, but I'm hoping it's a little earlier in the season. We're having a little bit of a wetter year. Maybe I'll see some. Oh, Ashley, you saw a young garter this weekend as well. Awesome. Wow, I can find things you haven't even been documented yet, Frank. That's awesome. Frank, I don't know about flexing the muscles. That's awesome. But I don't know if I will do that. Let's see. Oh, so you don't have any scorpions in that part of New Mexico, Sean? That's kind of weird. We have, I don't know, several species here. So I'm surprised by that. So, interesting. That is very interesting. Okay, I'm just going to check Patreon, make sure I haven't missed anything. If you posted something on Patreon and I haven't covered it yet, then I'm just checking, but let me know if I missed something. I want to make sure. Oh, I see. So maybe, Sean, are you also high up enough that it's going to discourage the scorpions? Is that what's going on? Let's see. So Jamie, in my place it rains a lot. It is super easy to see wild pill bugs. Cool. Yeah, even though, yeah, in my place it doesn't rain a lot, but when it does, I do see the pill bugs. And fitness channel, Aquarimax fitness. That's funny. Let's see. Okay, 7,000 feet. Well, that would explain some of that. Yeah, you're a lot higher than I am. I'm about 4,500 feet. And we only have one species of scorpion right around where I am. And I haven't seen one in years. They're not that common. So, yeah, that's that kind of explains some of it. It's funny that you have the whip scorpion that high up, though. That's really interesting to me. As far as I know, there have only been 1 or 2 reports of confirmed reports of the whip scorpions in my state, even in the corner of the Mojave Desert, where the elevation is in the 2,000 and 3,000 feet. So that's interesting to me. But I think you have to go a little further south to get into where you're going to encounter the whip scorpions. Interesting. I actually have a family that lives in New Mexico near Albuquerque, and we're planning on going and visiting them sometime. They moved there fairly recently, and we were going to go last summer. If COVID hadn't happened, we would have gone, but, you know, that happened, so we didn't. So interesting. And Max Johnson, welcome. What's the worst animal bite I've gotten? Probably a dog bite, honestly. Got bitten on the hand by a dog when I was a kid. That probably did the most damage of any bite. I've been bitten by a number of things, but probably 2 or 3 species of snakes. Most of those when I was younger and not very careful. But although my garters have occasionally accidentally bitten me when they're trying to eat food, I do feed them with tongs so that they don't associate my hands with food. But once in a while, I'll touch my hand with a pinky or something, and then the snake thinks there's food there. Oh wow! The false honeypot ant, Frank, likes temperatures near freezing like all the time. Do you have to keep it in a wine cooler or something? Okay. So Ashley Neville can easily find newts but never salamanders. Any tips? In Wisconsin, so quite different landscapes. I have never herped in that part of the world, so I'm not sure. When I lived in Washington State as a kid, I would find both salamanders and newts, I guess, occasionally. Probably more salamanders than newts, honestly. But they were generally in places like wood piles, stuff like that, where it's very wet, of course, in Washington. I don't know if that helps at all. But, yeah, salamanders, we only have one species of salamander in this state. We have the tiger salamander, and a lot of them, of the populations, are actually the neotenic populations, meaning they stay larval, rather like axolotls. They look a lot like axolotls, in fact, and they're in the high mountain lakes. But I have seen, we have populations that metamorphose as well. It kind of depends on the situations in the lake. Let's see. Frank, that's estivation. If it's like hibernation, but it's to escape heat and or dryness, then it's estivation. Beyond field marks, there are species I've always wanted to see while herping, but haven't yet. Yes, there are quite a few. Gila monster. And banded gecko, those are two. I guess I was talking about those before, but I have not seen those herping yet, and I want to see both of them. So I hope I do. Last year I got to see a blue death veining beetle in the wild for the first time when I was herping. And a few years ago I saw my first tortoise. Desert tortoises. Actually, we saw two on the same trip within about 10 minutes of each other. And let's see. Oh, John, thank you. Got a super chat. That is awesome. And I appreciate all of it. It all helps. So even if it doesn't pay for a gym membership, it's awesome. I appreciate it a lot. So thank you. Let's see. What isopod species is the most easy to care for? I think there are a lot that tie for that category. I think quite a few, in fact. I would just say things like Porcelionides pruinosus, dairy cows, Porcelio laevis, pretty easy. Those are three species I'd say that are super easy. How do I feel about keeping isopods with arid reptiles? Well, I keep Porcelionides pruinosus with a leopard gecko right now, and I've done it for about 3 years, maybe more, and they do well. They do really well. So I think it's a good idea. With super arid enclosures where there's no moist area for them to hang out, it's not going to work, obviously. But as long as there's a place where they can hydrate, and it's a constant that they're able to access that at all times, then I think it's great. Works well. Air Warrior, congratulations on your hissing cockroaches. 47 babies. And that's awesome. Oh, Beyond Field Marks. You've seen the Gila monsters. Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. I hope it works. I hope I'm able to see some. I do know that May is the month, but they're also kind of rare in that area, so I'll keep all my fingers crossed that I'll be able to see a Gila monster. That would be cool. So, Porcelio incanis. I have seen a couple of pictures of that species, but I don't have it, and I don't know much about it. But I have seen it. Oh, I got another comment. Julie says she lives in northern Wisconsin. There's not really lizards there, maybe prairie skinks, but could be only further south. And would love to have lizards and geckos. Always loved going on vacation in Mexico where lizards are just hanging out in the room. Yeah, I really loved in Hawaii. We would get morning geckos and the Indo-Pacific geckos and the house geckos in the house, which was fun. And we'd have eggs up in the corner, and we'd watch the eggs and watch them hatch. And once my daughter was really small at the time, and she came to us. She was about 2 years old, and she came to us with her hand like this, with a smile on her face, and said, "What do you got?" And she said, "I got a gecko," and opened her hand, and she had a tiny little hatchling gecko on her hand. She hadn't hurt it at all. It was perfectly fine, but she had somehow managed to capture it without hurting it at 2 years old and showed it to us. So, Frank. See, that's what I get for showing my, from chest up instead of, it's usually, if I'm doing a live stream, it's just right up here. So I guess that's my fault this time. Let's see. Oh, Herr Wade, the North American wood turtle. I think you narrowed it down to that one for a pair to keep. I love the idea of wood turtles. I don't have any experience with them. I've read about them and how personable they can be. They seem really unique, kind of like a tortoise-like turtle, and fascinated by them really, but I haven't kept them, so there's not much I can say except that sounds really cool. I don't know. I've never seen one in real life that I can think of. I just read about them, but they're amazing. Oh, there's Tennyson. Hello. How are your isopods doing? Tennyson actually lives close enough to me that he came and did a pickup of some isopods. Assuming this is the same Tennyson, but I'm pretty sure it is. Just a few days ago. So he's got an interesting project going on with the isopods. He's going to do some morph making. Heather Jensen says, Wisconsin is going to have frogs and toads more than anything, red and yellow sliders. Oh yeah, you're getting some of those, the turtles. You know, red-eared sliders are not native here, but they do show up once in a while. There's a pond probably about a mile from my house, and I have not seen a live turtle there, but I have seen a red-eared slider shell there, and there are other ponds in the state in which I have seen them. There's a pond about 20 minutes from my house or so where I've seen the red-eared sliders too. Very invasive, unfortunately. They also have common snappers in this state now, not native here again, but they show up in a river that's not far from my house, as well as at least one other river in the state. So they appear to be breeding here now. Oh good, Tennyson, I'm glad they're doing well. And the springtails as well? Wow, really? Did half an hour already pass? That's crazy. Oh, Jamie, I'm glad those isopods didn't flood. And beyond field marks, do I keep track of what I've found on your trips? I usually make some kind of note or list, and then what I have been doing is making a video about it. I think, was it in 2020 I made a video about it. I think in 2019 I didn't actually make a video about my herping trip, and I'm not sure why. And then in 2018 I did one, and so I have a video that shows and talks about, has footage of us encountering the first desert tortoises we ever found, or last year's. It shows the first death feigning beetle we ever found, as well as some, lots of other reptiles and some amphibians and different creatures, invertebrates that we found. So, yeah, that's kind of what I do. I have posted a few things that I found on the trips on Bug Guide as far as insects, but I should really do more with iNaturalist. My son had a school project with iNaturalist, and we kind of helped him or worked on it together, and that was fun, but I haven't done a whole lot more with that. I should do more. And Tennyson, yes, I hope you do get some. I think the ones that I picked for you are small enough, because that's what you needed for your project, that it might be more than a few weeks, but in a few months you probably will be getting some. Oh yes, the lightning bugs. Yes, Heather, definitely. I have only seen lightning bugs or fireflies twice in real life. Once was when someone from this area went back east, and they went to Nebraska or Ohio or someplace, I don't remember, someplace further east than here, where there are a lot of lightning bugs or fireflies, brought them back. And this was years and years ago, decades ago. They caught some, and I was able to see those, which was cool. And then a couple of years ago, I think it was almost 2 years ago, my family and I went about an hour north of here, where there is a native type of firefly or lightning bug that lives in this state. But the thing is, they're not nearly as bright as the ones you see back east. And so you have to wait until it is pitch dark, and they only are active as adults basically in the month of June. They start out a little bit at the end of May, and they persist a little bit into July, but generally they're only active in June. And so you have to wait until like 10:30 or something like that. We went on the first day of summer, and it was unseasonably cold that day. And this was kind of high up in the mountains too, so it was like 50 degrees or something, which was crazy on the first day of summer, even for uh, that high up in the mountains. And we waited for the lights to die down, and it has to be in a place where there's not much light pollution, or you can't even see them because they're that dim. But it was a wetland, kind of a marshy area, and we started seeing little flashes, and it was awesome. It was really exciting to see them, but we were all really cold because it was like 50 degrees. So yeah, interesting. And Air Warrior, I would really like to see this black and white isopod you're talking about. I can maybe give you a little bit more information about it. And let's see. Yeah, it's kind of sad that there aren't many fireflies out west. Get into the Rocky Mountains and westward, and there really aren't a lot of fireflies. Dancing isopod, Jamie. That's awesome. I love the fact that the lightning bugs are so varied. And beyond field marks, we should definitely get some isopods in there, more of them. Yep. Someday I want to keep the glowing click beetles too, because they're not only easier to keep than fireflies. Fireflies apparently don't do very well in captivity, but the bioluminescent click beetles are fairly easy to raise, and they glow pretty brightly and pretty constantly. And even the larvae can glow, but the adults glow constantly. They have different parts of their bodies that glow all the time, and some that they can turn on and off, I guess, which is really interesting. So John Racine, if you could go anywhere in the world to herp for frogs, what country would you go to? I would probably go to some place like Venezuela or something where I could see the dart frogs. There's a profusion of dart frogs, you know, somewhere down in South Central America, somewhere in there where there are a lot of different dart frogs. And yeah, I mean, there are so many other places I could go, and that would be interesting too. There's a lot of places I would go, but that's probably one of them. So Max Johnson, I know keeping in groups of different species of isopods together doesn't work, but do you think you could make it work in a large terrarium? I don't know. It would have to be big enough so that you could partition the resources, and I don't know how well that would work. I feel like it would be really hard. I'm not saying it could never work, or you couldn't do it with some species, but in general, I think it would be really tough. So let's see. So Frank says, don't glowing click beetles need a bacteria to make them glow? Well, whether they do or not, whatever happens, it seems to work. Invertebrate dude, I did a video with him, and he's been breeding them. He's been breeding a couple different species of the glowing click beetles, and they continue to glow generation after generation. So whatever mechanism is used, it works. And I'm not sure if it's bacteria or not. And yeah, see, Newt, you've got the fireflies too, and we do not, except for the really dim ones that you can see. If you do, like I said, you have to go right in basically June, and it has to be super dark, and it has to be a place without light pollution and stuff. So cicadas. We do have cicadas here, and we have some cyclical cicadas, as well as some that seem to be annual. And it's been a while since we've had the cyclical cicadas, maybe 4 or 5 years. They were crazy loud, but they're not the same kinds as the ones that are in the trees screaming. Down in the desert where I'm going to be going, they have those. And Jamie, I would say that apple is probably fine if it's peeled, and it's just kind of lost its freshness a little bit. That'd probably be fine for your isopods. So, Tennyson, do you have a favorite species or morph of isopods? Within species, I have lots of favorite morphs, but species-wise, it's really hard to pick. But I do love Porcelia expansus. That is one of my favorites for sure. Oh, and lavas? Lavas are probably my favorite Porcelio scabromorph so far. I really like them a lot. Oh, so Tennyson, I'm just making a connection here. Raceland, I've Raceland and Tennyson and your dad. I've met all of you, haven't I? You're all doing the isopod things. That's cool. Yeah, I got some magic potions from your dad, right? I thinking that's what happened. Let's see. Yeah, fireflies are definitely cool. Oh, the cicada killers. Yeah, I saw one of those a summer or two ago. They're those gigantic wasps. Heather, I love it. The cicada shells. You know, I collected one of those when we had the cyclical cicadas and use it for bug presentations because it's a great example of an exoskeleton. Uh, they can see, you know, it's really clear to see, so I like that. Okay, so Tennyson, yeah, now it's all making sense. That's cool. Very cool. All right. Well, my magic potions are breeding now. They didn't start out immediately, but they eventually did get there. So. Oh, okay. That makes sense, Tennyson. Now I'm getting why it was a little bit confusing, and now I get why it makes sense. Okay, cool. That works. Oh, Snailientologist. It'd be cool if you had enough cicada shells for Halloween. You just don't dress up, and you just attach some strategic cicada shells in places where you can't really. It doesn't look like you see them, and not tell anybody. You put a couple on your back or your shoulders and things where people are going to notice them, but it looks like you didn't know they were there. That'd be cool. Creep some people out, I guess. Let's see. Orange Vigor. I do like the Orange Vigor too. That was one of my first Armadillidium vulgarium morphs that I had, I think, and it's a good one. Ooh, artistic diorama with cicada shells. I could see that work. Yeah. Cicadas are such bizarrely interesting animals. And I've heard somewhere in a podcast, I think, that the baby copperhead snakes will actually eat the emerging cicadas, which sounds interesting. Some snakes will eat the insects, some won't. Some benefit from, they can actually digest the chitin, some can't. Like the yellow-bellied racers that live around here eat a lot of grasshoppers and stuff like that, and there are enough grasshoppers that probably be fine as long as they're balanced. I mean, they could survive on the number of grasshoppers they eat. So, oh, Jamie, have you ever had your cat eat isopods? So my snake loves to dig in isopod bins when I'm one of our snakes. Loves to dig in the isopod bins when I'm doing maintenance. If he's around my shoulders or something like that, he'll just go down into the substrate of the isopods and dig around. He really likes it. So it's kind of fun. Okay, well, that's good. So Newt, I was just talking about the actual shells, not the actual cicadas, because yeah, that would totally be an issue, definitely, if they were alive. Oh, kind of like Heather. That's like what happens with the ants and the dragonflies when the how do you say it in English? The alates, is that how you say that? Um, the winged form of the ants, when the males and females, the reproductive ones. I will always see the dragonflies hovering above where they're leaving the nest, and then just they'll bite off the abdomen and drop everything else. Oh, I see what you're saying, Newt. That makes sense too. Yeah, you don't want to crush the perfectly good shells. True enough. So Max, racers in captivity. At least the western yellow-bellied racers don't make particularly good captives, from what I understand. They're very, very active. They're very visually oriented, and they will. They're fairly nervous, is my understanding. I did have an encounter with a young one, very young one. It looked like a hatchling. It was in my workplace. I heard somebody in the hallway saying, get Russ," or something like that. And I poked my head out of the room I was in and said, "What's going on?" They said, "There's a snake here." I said, What? And I went looked, and in the kind of the cafeteria area, there was a snake. It was a baby Western yellow-bellied racer. And so I brought it home, and I made sure it was fed up and hydrated. I fed it a few crickets, dusted crickets and normal crickets, I alternated to make sure it was eating well and doing well, make sure it was hydrated, kept it for, a week or so, and then released it in a place where I know there are other racers. Because it wasn't going to do well if I'd left it in the office building. So, oh, backyard bugs, you got a leopard gecko, awesome. And Eileen, the garters are doing really well. Ruby is showing some scale spread, so could be pretty soon. I am trying to figure out when exactly the garters, when she actually got fertilized, and I'm kind of thinking it was probably mid March is my best guess. But she's widening, and I'm excited to see how many babies we're going to get. She's eating a lot, and she's still eating a lot, so she's probably not super close to giving birth because she's still eating. And so I would say they're doing really well. I'm running out of large pinkies really fast. I ordered 150 large pinkies not that long ago. And when I'm feeding 3 hungry garters and one is a mother, an expectant mother, that means we're talking 7 to 9 pinkies per feeding 3 to 4 times a week. So, it's a lot. Because sometimes the boys only want 1, sometimes they want 2 each. And she usually wants 6 or more. Something like that. Okay, so let's see. Herping near the Green River because I used to live right next to it. Caught a black and white checkered snake. Any idea what species it could have been? Well, there's a couple of different options actually possible. So Green River here in Utah, right? Just like down south a bit. One possibility is it could be make sure I say that right, an anuaristic specimen of a garter snake, because we do have some garter snakes with checkers on them, and if it had a mutation that took away all the reds and browns away, it would just be hopefully I said the right word, take all the other colors away, it could look black and white. So am I isopod man or aquarium man? That's what I want to know. Once I take off the glasses. Okay, well, we'll see. See what we get, Eileen. It kind of depends a lot on the temperature too. So that's I mean, it might be as early as mid-May, but it could be later. A lot of times around here, let's imagine if it's mid-March, then it could be mid-May, but it could be June. We'll see. I'll keep my eyes open. My particular garters were actually born in August, so we'll see. Aquarimax to the rescue. Well, I don't know how much rescuing I'm going to be doing, but maybe I'll rescue isopods. I can do that, hopefully. So yeah, I'm wondering, Tennyson, if that's what you had, was a garter snake that had that mutation. There could be other options too, though, depending on which part of the river you were at. Oh, she had them for Mother's Day? That would be super cool. We'll see. I mean, that will be mid-May, so I don't know. I'm noticing enough scale spread that I'm hoping that she ended up getting fertilized earlier than I'm thinking. I'm basing it on this. I woke them up on March 1st, and they were mating almost nonstop for 2 weeks. But I don't know if that's because they didn't stop until the job was done and the fertilization already happened, or if they just do that and she had already gotten fertilized at the beginning. And yeah, a lot of red names. We're going to think of a lot of red names for the babies. I don't know if I'm going to end up keeping any, but we might as well give them a name in the meantime. And Jamie. Well, if it helps you, then I'm glad. Well, that's good. I'll take it. And Herr Wade gathered a colony of isopods from a mulch pile last week. Surprising they were all the same species. Yeah, I have noticed that sometimes is when you find them in the wild, you find all one species in one spot. Okay, you were in South Jordan. Yeah, I have seen, Tennyson, on that topic, I have seen some of the wandering garters that are the ones that we usually find. We have wandering garters and we have valley garters in this state, and I think those are the only two garter species we have in the state, at least the only ones that are common. I've seen some that are very, very checkered. So they have the pattern, the checkered pattern, even though they're not technically checkered garter snakes. Some of them have really big checkers too. I've seen more than one like that. So it's very possible, though it's unlikely that you would have seen an anuary snake just because they're not common in the wild. But if it was really black and white and looked like that, that's probably, I mean, that's the best option I can think of in South Jordan, because a lot of the snakes that we have in the southern part of the state are not present in South Jordan. And also, if it's by it's by the river, garter snakes. That's usually the snake you find near a river in Utah. So that's kind of what I'm thinking. Okay. Oh, okay. So Eileen, just calculation thing. So yep. So late May to early June. So within a month or so, month to 6 weeks ish. That makes sense. I'm excited. I've never bred snakes before. I've bred other reptiles, bred a lot of different things, mammals and birds and invertebrates of different types, but never snakes. So this is a new thing. Very exciting. Oh, I like it. Look at all these names. Rojo, garnet, rust, scarlet, russet. Yep, I'm liking it. We're going to have a big list. Let's see. How many invertebrates do you have? Oof, good question. If you mean species, even that is a good question. The answer to which I'm not sure. I would have to count them up. I have 2 new species as of a couple weeks ago, and I don't know. I mean, people ask, I have more than 50 species of different things, and many of those are invertebrates. But I don't even know where I am on that, to be honest. There's probably closer to 60 different species of things now, at least. And in isopods, I probably have at least 40 different types. But I need to count, to be honest. It's been a while. So scale spread, John, basically is you can see the skin between the scales. And with the red-sideds, it makes a lot more of the red show, because a lot of their red is actually between the scales. So right after they eat, you see there's a lot more red than normal. And when they have scale spread, you see it quite a bit. And then there's the girth on the female. She looks just a lot wider than normal. She's a lot wider than she was when I woke her up from brumation, for sure. And hopefully that helps. I do have some pictures of it posted on my Instagram if you want to check it out. Let me see if I have. I'm just going to check on Instagram and see when the last time I posted that. If I posted something about something fairly recently with the scale spread. I think I did. Yeah, I mean, she's looking even bigger than this, but a week or so ago, I posted a picture of Ruby on my Instagram, Aquarimax Pets, and you can kind of see it. So maybe that will help a little bit. I'm just going to see if I can. I think I just got another message on Patreon. I'm checking. What is that? That was weird. Music coming from the phone. Okay. Just checking. I don't think. Hopefully I'm not missing anything. I'm always concerned about missing something. I think I caught everything on here. Yeah, okay. So I'm going to come back to the live chat. All right. Let's see. Have you encountered a 2-headed snake or a snake with a split tail? I don't think I have, although they have one in the museum did have one in a museum not far from here that was caught near here, a two-headed garter snake. Not alive. It didn't survive, unfortunately. Okay, that's probably what it is then, Tennyson. When you owned a few ants, one missed an eye. That is weird. Well, we've got just a few minutes more. I think I was able to cover all the questions in Patreon, so if you have any other things you'd like to talk about in terms of herping, in terms of isopods, whatever, I can think of some of the invertebrates that I have, other than feeders. I have an Asian forest scorpion that I haven't talked about in a while. I have, of course, blue death feigning beetles. I have diabolical ironclad beetles. I have a couple of other desert beetles. I have some velvet ants. I've got a number of different species of millipedes. I've got many isopods. I've got Ophiula shrimp. Got Neocaridina shrimp. Got some aquatic snails. Just trying to go through everything in my head like this is kind of complicated. It would be easier if I were looking at them. I've got some species that I'm going to be introducing soon that I recently got that I haven't talked about yet on my channel, so I don't want to steal the thunder right now. You know, that would be bad. Who will design my costume? Good question. Should have an isopod on the front though, probably. Did you ever catch any wild pill bugs? Yeah. My Silisticus convexus wild type colony caught the founding individuals in my backyard, and my Armadillidium vulgare night gold project caught those in a canyon near my house. So I have done that. Should do a video on the scorpion, huh? Right now it's in pre-molt, so I need to leave it alone for now. But once it finishes the whole molt process and sclerotizes, then I could probably do a video on it. And let's see, no chance to see the multis. Not from here because I'm on a different floor and I'm all hooked up with my mic and everything. So not this time, but we should do it soon. I've got a lot of baby multis in there. They're doing pretty well. A lot of baby multis. And centipedes. Yes, I do have a centipede, Scolopendra polymorpha. I have a video on that. When the last time I did an unboxing from Bugs in Cyberspace, I showed that, and then actually in my last video on the tarantula cribs enclosures, it shows up. But oh, you're talking about the millipedes. Okay, well, it's been a while since I did a millipede video. I have done them, but it's been a while. I think the last one I did was, I think some have shown up in live streams, but I think I did one on bumblebee millipedes. So Jamie, you have about 100 isopods. Cool. That's a pretty good number. I don't know how many thousands I have. A lot. But have you heard about Scarite beetles? I'm not sure if I know about that one. And I do love the tarantula cribs enclosures, for sure. They are fantastic for viewing and great for preventing escape, so they're very cool. I'm loving mine, and I now have, I think, six of them. It's super cool. It sounded like Gru when I said the name of the centipede. Interesting. All right. Well, this has been a pretty good stream, everyone. Thank you for joining in. I really love the sense of community that we have in the stream, that we have on Patreon, and kind of being able to address these comments and talk about these things has been fun. Looking forward to the herping trip. I will do my best to make an interesting video about what I find. Hopefully I'll find some good things, so everybody send good vibes that I'll find some good things, because I need all the help I can get. It was such a dry year last year that we didn't see nearly as much as we wanted to, but still got some cool sightings. And hopefully this year we'll do even better. And all right, everybody, thank you so much. And we will catch you on Friday. I'll have another video out, so I'll see you then.